This week on Leak Spec, some tariffs.
NHL trade deadline.
And Josh has nothing to say.
Yeah, I'll say something,
And
you
Josh's
guys.
usual banter.
Yes, banter time.
I'll say something. But I don't know what to say.
He's like threatening to say
Well,
something. Say something. Say it with a chest.
He's been saying that all day.
It's like those politicians. They're always like, I'm going to say something.
Well,
and then
be
they
like-
say a bunch of stuff, and they
like
don't
Doug
actually
Ford.
do too much.
You're like Doug Ford.
Oh,
on
yeah.
NBC.
Yeah.
I'll
yes.
do it. I don't want to do it. We love the Americans, but I'll do it.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
want to see this thing go through with that. That'd be interesting.
I would like to see it.
Like, what's Trump going to do at that point?
Probably not care, because he doesn't care about most people.
Bad.
Yep. You guys have a good week?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was all right. How about you?
It was good, you know.
I have nothing exciting to report.
I would be excited if a lot of you guys listening to this would give it a subscribe and help out the channel. That's all I'd ask from any listeners at this moment. Thank you.
Share it with your friends.
And other
Or
than
your
that,
enemies.
Or both. Yeah.
mostly share it with your enemies. Yeah. We'll send it to the guys you don't like, and we'll say something just to offend them a little.
They're just going to send it right back to us.
Yeah, that's fine.
You said to send it to who we don't like.
And then they can comment.
Wow.
Yeah.
They can call us some dingleberries.
We love reading the comments, you guys. You guys are creative. We love it. Yeah. Other than that, same old, same old.
The Jets stopped winning.
The
They
Jets
stopped
stopped winning, and they need some new players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
trade
Are they going to
deadline.
get anybody, or are they just... What do you think, Mike?
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens on Friday.
Yeah.
There have been some names thrown out there already as it is. So, like, I'm very curious to see if we're going to do anything. The Jets are usually the kind of team to do things at the last minute. So we'll see on Friday if they do anything. I don't want to say any names as of yet and curse anything yet. So just to see what happens, I think. Should be interesting on Friday.
I don't know who they really need.
They want to find someone, I think, to... I think it was... who was it they were talking about? Just to basically help out. I think it was the fourth line or center line as well too, just to kind of help and give more support back there, because we're eyeing for a deep playoff run this year.
Yeah, you need
So-
depth in the lines. That's
We
true.
certainly do.
Must get past the first round.
That is the first.
Have they made
obstacle.
it past the first round ever?
Yep, in
Once.
2018, we got all the way on to the Western Conference Final. We first,
Oh,
I think
yeah.
Vegas, I think it was.
Yeah.
Lost to
that's
Vegas.
right.
The
Yeah.
damn
Yeah, it
Golden
was
Knights.
at that whiteout party there.
Yeah.
In the streets there.
Yeah.
I think Burton Cummings was doing something for the
Yep.
show.
There was.
You remember that, huh?
Well, I was working security at the time.
That was like a whole generation ago. I
It
can't even
feels
remember
like
that
it.
far back, and yet I remember some of it.
I was probably sitting on the couch like a fatty, drinking a beer.
Yeah, and I went to the Pony Corral afterwards and had some drinks there. I
Oh.
remember that now. It was cool that night afterwards. I didn't go to the Met though, Mike. That's the place is still there.
The Mets still there.
You can
It
still
is.
watch the game there.
I think so.
Yeah,
They had like a dinner and the game kind of
yeah. That was kind of cool. I should go do
It's
that
not
sometime.
gonna be cheap though. That's the problem. But
I was there at Christmas to see a movie and have a buffet dinner.
nice,
It was good.
nice place.
Well, Mike,
What's going on?
Adam did an outline for us, and
I did, and then I forgot what I put on it.
he's going to tell us about a First Nations community that's helping to help out its community with and Manitoba.
Mm-hmm.
It's Norway House. Chief says First Nations can help Manitoba potential to be global Costco of critical minerals. You know what that means?
Nope. We don't know.
Absolutely not.
You should know
don't
exactly
know
what it means.
anything.
You put up the article, and I was like, that's an interesting concept. I'd like to hear more.
No, I don't speak English.
Okay.
Why did it get so quiet when you said that?
I was like, we've recorded you in English this whole time. Well, I was not reading subtitles.
No,
Speaking
this. So I like this article because it highlights a point I like to discuss. We've talked at length about Canada and how we have lots of minerals and we have oil and other stuff that we could extract and sell and put our economy in a much better place. And this is an example of how we can do just that while also allowing, our First Nations communities to help themselves out, because often, they find they're struggling with poverty and isolation in a lot of the locations where they are. And, if we could help them develop more of the, minerals and whatnot resources on their land, it would be a way for them to create sustainable income and help lift more of these communities out of poverty. So I think this is a really good example of something we need more of. Unfortunately, the regulations that Canada has are making it hard for First Nations as well to extract their riches and elevate their communities.
Yes, you are right. And I'm glad you brought up this point of conversation, because there's a lot of negativity in this world, and focusing on the positive aspects that our society can do is great. You're right, Adam.
I like how Josh always tells me I'm right.
Yeah.
It makes me feel good.
Thank you. But I totally love these kind of topics too, because what can we do is always the question. And we just seem to have governments that don't really do anything because of all the bureaucratic nonsense that prevents anybody from accomplishing practically anything. Like, I tried to breathe this morning, and I think I got tariffed for that.
Yes.
Yeah, tariffed, taxed, and everything.
Yep, all of it.
So the question is, what resources? I didn't read specifically what resources they were, or unless I forgot.
It's a nickel mine.
Nickel, okay.
I believe.
Okay, like Timmins. Yep, that's what they have up there. Former home of Shania Twain.
Now, if I remember correctly, Norway House, they actually own the sole owner of a mine, I think. There's a nickel project on the Thompson Nickel
and
Belt.
part of the problem in these northern communities is the shipment and getting those resources to market.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to see development from the province on aspects like this. Do you think that this NDP government will stop talking and start doing and get something like this project to completion? Because that's always the question with government. They say new train tracks and new care home and whatever, and then never do any of it, right?
I think in this particular case, they're talking about a mine that already exists, but they're talking about how there could be more. So they have this nickel mine. The Norway House band, I guess, is the sole owner of this mine. So that means, the profits that come in, it's for them and their people, and that's great. Mm-hmm. We need more of that. They need more of that. And I recall as well from when I was reading it, I believe it said they've identified some magnesium deposits on their land as well. So I think they're looking,
so they need more development on that front.
Yeah, and I think that this would actually be a good thing for our different levels of government to invest in helping start up these projects, and then with the idea that eventually they, once they're up and running, they fund themselves.
Yeah, and you know what? Fair criticism to Canada. I mean, other countries have looked to us to say, you have so many resources, but you don't do anything with it.
True.
And that is fair judgment. That the current American president is saying that about us, and he's not wrong on that front. The point
he's wrong on many other ones.
Yeah, well, the point. Clear. Yeah, the point here is we need to develop resources and get them to market, and we just don't do that, and we're not helping societies. We only get government funding or government budgets from tax base, basically. I was told previously I don't know anything about taxes, but I know here in Canada, the majority of the government's income comes strictly from tax.
No, you don't know anything.
Yep. So the point here is how can we develop this? Do you think the Manitoba government has any plans to help further this? Because this is an article basically, I think, to get the attention of the governments, and I think.
Well, they don't have plans. That's why this is why this
article's up here.
The article's being written. They're saying, we're here. We can help.
Yeah. We
can help the province. The province can help us. But you need to pay attention to something, other than unions or whatever it is they like so much.
Yeah. So between the federal parties, do we see any of the Liberals or the Conservatives moving forward on trying to develop resources.
Well, that's the issue, I guess. When we have a federal government that's passing legislation to make it impossible to get any kind of resource project off the ground, it's affecting First Nation peoples too. It affects everyone. It makes it more difficult for everyone. It restricts everyone. And, this is the problem we've been having. We've talked about it a lot here already. And this is why we are looking for a federal government that is saying they will bring an end to the stifling this kind of production and start encouraging, proper development and, wealth and prosperity, as they like to say.
Well, good on them. I really hope that we get the attention of somebody to actually do something. I know
they got our attention.
I know there's a lot of other things.
The 7 people.
Yes, thank you. But moving on to the other thing that brings on attention to people in the media specifically. What's next?
This week in tariffs.
It's going to be a reoccurring thing for the next several weeks, I think.
It gets the clicks.
Tariffs and tariffs. We hear about them all the time. Every week, or at least every other week, there's something new on the front of tariffs and trade war, or whatever it is that they're going to be. What's new today, Adam, on tariffs?
Yo, dog, I heard you like tariffs. I put some tariffs in your tariffs. So you can tariff while you tariff your tariffs.
There's lots of tariffs in this world. Currently today, I think it is, right? It's today.
We have tariffs now. Yeah, we woke up today and there were tariffs on us.
Us? Right away?
Yeah.
Or was it
Canada,
Canadian exports that were being tariffed?
Yeah.
As we explained, that's not our payment.
Right. Okay, that's true.
Just it's just on our influence around the world.
The U.S. people suddenly had to pay tax to buy our stuff, to bring it into their country.
If they were actually buying it and not sourcing it elsewhere if they could.
Right.
Because some closing up of goods from Canada have occurred, and now they are sourcing out American goods to replace those Canadian orders. That's what's happening.
Canada will not back down on us, per Trudeau.
I mean, he's good at just saying things, as I've said before.
And as you've said previously, he also is free to say what he wants.
He is free to say whatever he wants now. He's a little bit, unshackled, you might say.
Yeah.
He's not trying to get reelected.
Well,
so
yeah.
He's opening up a little bit more, but at the end of the day, there's still no action behind anything he says, and that's the problem. We still don't have a sitting government that can react to what's happening. We just have this prorogued situation, and these liberals just
So what's the story with tariffs then? 25% tariffs on all Canadian exports that are going into the U.S.
And Mexico.
And what does that mean for Canadians? Because we're going to respond in kind.
Yeah, so as I understand it, we are going to promptly put in place tariffs on some $30 billion of American exports coming into Canada, which, to be clear, that's a tax that we as Canadians, we will pay it.
Yep.
And
we like taxes.
Well, that's what we do here. And I believe in 3 weeks, if this is still going on, Trudeau has said another whatever, it's going to total 155 billion in tariffs on U.S. exports. So, we might want to start looking for ways to source some of that stuff from other countries, whether it's Mexico, Europe, whatever. But yeah, that's coming our way. And again, it's a tax for us to pay. The tariffs that the U.S. puts on Canada are a tax for Americans to pay. That's when a country places tariffs, that country's people are paying the tariff, which is a tax.
And are tariffs a new thing, or have they always existed, and have we been currently paying tariffs?
They have always existed.
Yes, that's the truth. If you dig deeper into this situation on tariffs, you'll discover that a lot of American goods that come up to Canada have been tariffed for years and years.
Supply management.
That's what they say.
You may have heard that referred to before in Canada. That's essentially Canada's attempt to protect our dairy industry. And what it boils down to is we put a tariff on American dairy coming into Canada.
Yep.
There may be, I don't know all the details of that.
But why do they do that, Adam? Can't we simply just buy Canadian and solve the problem?
I mean, it's never that simple.
Correct. The question I have here is, what happened to free trade? I thought free trade and equality were things that we looked for. That might be part of the argument. We don't actually know what the Americans are going for at this point. But if it was free trade that we were looking for, is it fair? This is just a question. To tax Canadians on American goods coming in? Like, what's the deal? Why should Americans not be able to sell, let's say, their chicken here in Canada for the same price that they sell it in other countries or domestically?
I guess it's to protect our industry, ultimately to protect jobs here and, keep money and investment here in Canada.
So what's wrong with Donald Trump protecting the American economy and taxing stuff that's coming in from, let's say, cars that are manufactured in Ontario? Why can't he just tariff those and move those people down to the U.S.?
I mean, he can. He's the president. He can do as he wishes. The problem is he's not being clear in what he actually wants.
There you go.
Every day it's because of fentanyl, or it's because we don't want to import cars, or it's because he doesn't like Trudeau, or it's because, someone called him a dingleberry. We never know. Every day, sometimes in the same day, the reasoning for it changes, Even leading up to our current situation.
He has to actually put out an explanation legally, or else they'll take him to the United Nations Court or whatever it is.
And he'll ignore that and not give a shit.
Yeah, so basically he has said that it is the fentanyl situation. And people are looking at that saying, we're doing as much as we possibly can at this point and making improvements. But you are not wrong. The communication as to exactly why is open for discussion. That's what we're wondering. Trudeau said today that it's basically he's uncertain why it is, and he seems to think that he wants the economy of Canada to suffer, right?
So that he can more easily annex Canada.
Yeah.
51st state nonsense.
I know. And in part of that, probably Trudeau enjoys saying that because it gives his party...
His polling numbers like to go up when he talks about that. So
I don't know how much faith I put into anything those guys are saying, because half of what they're saying is for political reasons to get votes and stuff.
Only half? He gives them too much credit, Michael Lee.
Yeah, it's almost...
I also read something today that J.D. Vance had said that Canada wasn't doing enough with the border. That we hadn't done enough, and it's we spent billions.
J.D. Vance is like a weird sock puppet trying to be like Trump, but he's always a couple steps behind whatever Trump is doing, because everybody is. Nobody really understands.
Do we really spend billions? I mean, once you take everything into account, it could be.
What?
On the border, on what we're doing in the bullying.
Sure, I read something that said they spend billions of dollars.
But the reality is...
There's guys chit-chatting here.
Tell us the reality. The reality is...
how secure is our border? It is fairly secure. People are not usually going across our border like they previously had allowed with the Biden administration in Mexico. I mean, how much fentanyl came in across that border? It's not the same. But being said, we are controlling it. We do patrol the border. We do have actual immigration. It may not be as great as some people might want.
The thing is, though, we can't minimize the amount of fentanyl that's crossing the border here. We are finding massive scale drug labs in Canada, like that one in BC. That fentanyl is going somewhere. It's not just for Canada. So we can't claim it's not happening. But I mean, it's kind of reality of the world that we're always dealing with this. And I don't really like the narrative of pointing at the U.S. southern border with Mexico and going, wow, they're much worse there because there's more. I'm like, yes, it is. But we probably are not doing ourselves any favor in this crappy situation by throwing Mexico under the bus over and over again, because they might still be on our side. And I believe I read today that they're talking about possibly selling produce to us. Basically by shipping it here around the U.S. So
to Michael Lee's point, though, the vice president and the president both are saying whatever reasons and whatever comments that we're not doing enough or it's because of fentanyl, right? The reality is we don't know what the communication is from this administration. I don't think anybody knows, and we don't even have leadership in this country to follow up on that. So at this point, I would like maybe the media or somebody to further expand on this point to when these politicians say these dumb things, just say, well, what aren't we doing enough? Like, I criticized the media last week on the podcast that they don't do enough. And this is a good example of when the media could actually do something. They'll just say, JD Vance said this. Well, Michael Lee just said JD Vance said whatever. He's just as good as any journalist, apparently, because where in the hell is an actual journalist that could show up and say, you know what? This JD Vance said this, but here's what's happening on the border. There's one guy on the CBC that actually sometimes does that kind of stuff in small segments.
Andrew Chang.
Yeah.
I like him.
Andrew
Chang. Don't defund him.
Well, you can defund him a little bit. The guy,
a little bit.
I believe Andrew Chang could make it on his own as an actual journalist.
I think so.
Yeah. He would probably be more successful if he had bite-sized content and long-form content both. But the point here I'm trying to make here is, in a subject like this where we don't know what's going on, why don't we have the media reviewing what Canada is actually doing and expanding on the comments that these politicians make? Because politicians and anybody and the news, anybody can just say something and then we just believe it. Yeah, it's just the truth as soon as somebody says anything
on
these
that
days.
Point, Josh, why do we like Andrew Chang? Because he does expand. What we're saying. He picks a topic that's relevant, usually what's going on that same day, and he digs into it and explains everything that normally is not explained. So it's like a lot of times the problems we have is, as we pointed out, they report on some story, they'll just tell you this thing happened and that thing happened, and then they move on. And, so many people today just go, well, I heard this, so that's what it is. Now I'm going to go and just parrot that around. But nobody explains why it's a thing and what the possible outcomes could be and, how it could be improved or how, someone could prepare better for whatever they're talking about. Andrew Chang does just this.
Yeah.
And that's why I think he's a very good example. I watch a lot of his content on YouTube. And I think this is the kind of journalism that we need. And I'm actually happy to see that we're getting it from someone on CBC. It's kind of surprising.
Yeah, I concur on that front. Indeed, I should say.
Indeed, most indeededly.
Yes, exactly. So the thing I would like to say is, with this tariffs nonsense.
Are there tariffs?
Yeah, we don't know what's gonna happen. So I'm not gonna expand my fantasies in my mind.
I don't like this.
To say it's going to be the end of the auto industry. It's going to be this or that, right?
Shut down in a week?
Because
a week it'll be shut down.
Yeah. This is what you hear, like, from the fantastical news media. Like, this could happen and that could happen, in a bunch of fear mongering, basically. I don't like to hear fear mongering. I like to hear basic
yourself talk.
Yeah. And I like to hear when they're saying, these are the facts of what's happening. We don't know what's going on with the communication. This is the reality of the situation as we see it, right? If we just get that from the news media, I think it goes a lot further to the point of educating the everyday Canadian who might not be listening to the actual details that are happening quickly, I think that bite-sized news information should be something, because TikTok is super popular. Instagram Reels super popular. Most people are getting their news from that. Why do you think it is that with these tariffs and we don't know what's going on, why do you think it is that the media is not adapting to the current technology? It's off topic from tariffs, but
in
some ways we've been talking about this for a while. Go ahead. What do you think?
Well, I was going to just point back to Mr. Chang on CBC. I mean, I don't watch CBC. I watch all his content on YouTube.
And he does 5 or 10 minute short videos.
Yeah, generally they're not super long.
That is too long for the microwave memories of most of the millennials and Gen Zs, I think.
Well, that's fine.
Mike, have you ever seen CBC or CTV on TikTok?
Have I ever seen them? Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Them specifically, a reel informing you of something in 30 seconds or less.
No,
probably not.
No.
That's more just typical people, just like us, just babbling.
But if you hear about tariffs and stuff, if you heard about Doug Ford and his talk today, where was that on?
That was on. I personally look at a lot of CTV news.
Okay.
That was where I saw that Doug Ford situation with the energy.
Like you looked it up on Google News or whatever the heck.
For me, it popped up in my YouTube feed, like the video. I think of him talking on NBC, I believe it was.
And how long was that clip?
Oh, it was a few minutes.
Yeah.
I was curious because it was on NBC. I was curious to see what
I saw what you guys are
Americans
talking about.
Are actually seeing, right? Because in Canada, we know what we see. We don't know necessarily what they're seeing in the U.S. about all this stuff, right? So sometimes I like to watch their news too.
It's kind of nice to watch their stuff too, to kind of see if it's being twisted in a different way.
Well, it is. You're just seeing how it's being twisted.
Yeah.
Just it is.
Yeah.
But when Doug Ford just goes on there and goes, "I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
He's going to turn off the light switch.
I'll just shut it off."
He's not going to do it.
No, but he might do an energy. What do they call it? It's a tax when you export it. It's an excise tax.
Yeah.
On electricity. That might be interesting to see.
Yeah, it would be.
So you can still have your electricity, it just costs way more.
I think it's like 1.5 million Americans or something like that would be out of power if you did that.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
Yeah.
it's insane.
Yeah. Sounds like a lot, but it's...
Well, there's 300
Yeah.
million of it.
It's nowhere near a percent. It's half it's half a percent.
But wouldn't it affect New York?
Yes,
I
a
think
portion.
so.
I don't know about New York
Would it get
State.
to New York City, though?
I don't know.
If it affected New York City, they might notice.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well, they already didn't vote for Trump, so I don't know how much influence they have.
Who knows?
They are a lot of people.
It's true.
Well, do we want to talk about these tariffs? Because we're going to be talking about it a little while longer.
That's what I said. It's This Week in Tariffs. That's
Yeah.
all for This Week in Tariffs. Thank you for joining us. Josh has anointed the Michael Lee with a new title of journalist.
Yes, thank you. Do I get paid like one now?
I don't know if they make that much money.
They can make money on content
Kickbacks.
views and kickbacks.
Yeah.
Bring up the next topic, Michael Lee.
What is it?
Well, Trudeau was supposed to be meeting the King to discuss matters of importance to Canada.
Hmm.
So I think the question is, should King Charles speak up on behalf of Canada?
That is a point that has been discussed back and forth for a bit now, as long as the 51st state stuff has been going on. People are wondering why the King was not speaking up, given that he is technically Canada's head of state. And I believe the generally accepted explanation is he would not speak up unless Canada's prime minister asked him to. So it's not to interfere with our politics.
I think that's probably for the better, because the Americans specifically already criticize us for being connected to the crown. They would just look at us and be like, you have less authority because the UK apparently makes your decisions now.
Yeah, you just called your dad to come in and yell at us.
Yep. That's basically what it is. I mean, who really cares about these kings and queens and whatever, the monarchy at this point? Only the UK.
I mean, lots of people do.
Lots of old people do.
Yeah, it's true.
Traditionalists. Here in Canada,
they like to comment on what they're wearing when they go places.
Yeah, that's what they have celebrities for.
I know.
They're just another celebrity.
They basically are now.
Yep, that's true. I don't know. They met. They chit-chatted. I don't put much faith in either of these guys to do anything for the country. One of them's on their way out, and the other's just a figurehead that doesn't do anything. So
it's true.
I mean, why did I have to hear about this? I don't honestly care about King Charles and whatever the heck's happening to him and whenever his face is going to be on our money. I don't care about it. I don't care if he says anything to the U.S. president. I'm looking for action from politicians.
Canadian politicians.
Well, yeah, I guess only action we're getting really is the tariffs that we just previously discussed.
So what we've learned is
don't bring up the king.
It continues to be literally the only thing that our current government can think of is taxes.
Taxes on everything.
It's like
carbon, death.
Our economy is under attack. Taxes.
Did you guys see what Trudeau had to say about that? Because I know he just met with the king, and I don't care about that. But
You mentioned that.
Going back to his response on tariffs quickly, do you think he said we'll do whatever it needs for Canadians? Do you think that means anything? Do you think the Liberal Party is going to do anything for Canadians in hard economic times when Americans are putting the pressure on Canadian goods?
It's literally their fault that we've been just kind of wandering around in the woods with no real reaction to any of this because we haven't had a sitting government to respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's their own fault. They did this so that we could all sit here while they pick their stupid leader.
And they've done nothing to grow the economy over the years, really.
No, they have actively prevented it from growing. If we go back to our first story, is a perfect example. You know, there's one mine in Manitoba owned by First Nations. One. In a huge province with lots of resources available. Why is that?
Development, bureaucratic tape. I know. We've said it enough times.
So there you go.
You know what? There's something that Donald Trump floated to the American people when he said that they were going to be paying these tariffs. You know what that was? It was lowering or abolishing the income tax that Americans have to pay.
Uh-huh.
I mean, obviously that's not really going to happen.
No.
But here's a valid question. If our Canadian politicians were doing anything to help us out in hard economic times, why don't they look at something like this? Why don't they look at dropping some of these taxes? Why on April 1st are we paying more on carbon tax rather than having a tax holiday or whatever, like that gas tax holiday?
Oh yeah, the temporary removal of a tax is a complete joke and totally stupid and solves absolutely nothing, and it just makes me roll my eyes when I see it.
Yeah, and then we see inflation right after the tax comes back.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't believe the government for 1 second when they're going to say they're going to do everything that they can to help us. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to do anything but create more taxes on us. That's all they're going to do. They're not going to drop any taxes. They could drop taxes. They could make some cuts to their budgets, and they're not going to. They're not going to make it easier for Canadians. That's all.
A perfect example of what you're saying is so for basically the whole time now that we've been listening to this tariff threat that started in December, maybe before that.
No, before that for sure. Before the election, they knew
the idea, or it was brought up that Canada doesn't even have free trade between our own provinces, and so our own provinces are putting like barriers on what can be sold where, and do you have to pay a tax here and all crap like. How can we complain that the U.S. is doing something to us? We're sitting here doing it to our province next door. It's absolutely stupid. And they've been talking for months now about how they're all going to get together and get rid of this.
Yeah, exactly.
You seen any action on that, Josh?
Nope. You're exactly right.
Nothing.
And who should I blame? The news for not pushing these stories to the forefront of Canadians' minds? Probably.
Yeah, I've only heard this talked about basically on YouTube and a little bit on, I believe, CTV. And
there you go. Check out
just very
good
little.
So check out good YouTubers to explain what's going on.
YouTubers.
Ubers
and tubers.
Yeah. Well, anyways, besides all that, let's go to our last topic that's been hotly discussed for the last week. You know what that one is, Michael Lee?
Are you potentially talking about the one with Trump and Vance attacking Zelensky?
That's correct.
It was a bit of a dust up.
They had a discussion there. Do you guys know what happened?
We do.
What was the intention of that discussion? And maybe one of you wants to enlighten us to exactly what happened. What was the story?
It certainly looked like a pre-planned attempt to bully Zelensky on national stage, and belittle him, and you get him to basically capitulate to I guess Russia and ultimately the U.S. so they can get their hands on more minerals over there.
And did you guys hear about the backstory about how this meeting came to be?
I feel like you might enlighten us a little bit.
I will enlighten you a little bit. There is a mineral deal that the Americans want in the Ukraine to get some of their resources to pay back for all the taxpayer money that's been going to the Ukraine. I mean,
Do you have any idea how much that's been?
it's billions.
100 and something billion, I think.
Yes, exactly.
Not what Trump said. He said like 300 billion. It's not that much.
Yeah, well, we don't even know because there's barely any way to audit what's going on.
Fair enough.
Yeah. The thing here is, at least if they had a resource deal, the Americans will get some of their money back over time to pay for it. And it might even increase security. So they had this deal that they wanted in place, and they wanted it signed between the Ukrainian governments and the American governments. However, the Ukrainian government stated that they have to go back to their parliament and get it ratified there. The issue became they didn't do that, and then they wanted to have a discussion. So they ended up having this discussion for some reason in front of the media. I mean, it's the way life is now. Is it good or bad? I don't know. These are the kind of discussions that happen all the time between politicians. We have heard previously that the Biden, former president, wanted or was upset with Zelensky several times and had yelling matches with the guy on the phone. We never saw that because obviously they kept it hidden and a little more classy. But
This is the first I've heard of that.
yeah, no, it's articles about it. You can read up the American news if you like. I listen to a couple American podcasters, so they've talked about these things in the past. The thing here is, this is the first time we've seen it on the media, an open discussion, and
I don't know if I'd call that an open discussion.
well, I mean, it's open in the sense that it was present for all of us to see.
Fair.
Rather than hidden behind doors like these discussions usually happen. Whether or not whatever they intended to talk about was transpiring or not, because it seemed like Zelensky was going about his usual stuff about trying to say like the Russians are going to do this and attack the rest of the world, and they're going to come across the ocean and whatever. I don't know.
What would you do in his position?
I mean,
You'd be doing the same thing.
yeah, basically. I mean, I don't know if I would be. I don't know. That's a good question. Like, the way I see it is, I don't like to see all these people dying. I mean, when you're a state head, right, you got to look at protecting your country. I understand that. But at the same time, when like 1 million Ukrainians die, where do you draw the line?
What do you suggest, though?
What do you mean?
Well, if you don't
You
like
compromise.
people are dying, then he should just go, all right, Putin, we're done. Come on in, help yourself.
It's going to get to that point if you lose enough of your citizens, yeah.
So that's what you think that they should do?
Ultimately, at the end of the day, compromise is what happens at the end of wars. It's either that or complete obliteration of one country. There's no other option.
Well, this what they were being faced with is not really compromise. That's the problem.
How's that?
Well, essentially, the with Trump and Vance are aligning themselves with Putin. They're pushing Putin's narrative, and they're basically telling Zelensky that he's the cause of the war.
Is that what's really happening though? Because the way I watched that,
They've literally said those words.
well, what's that? That
What I just said.
That Zelensky's the cause of the war.
Trump said that he started it.
That Zelensky started it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never saw that in this recent discussion. Was that? I didn't see the whole discussion. Was that in the White House?
Not
one?
in this discussion. He said it previously.
Yeah, no.
Nonetheless, he still said it.
Yeah, no. I was based on the discussion we're having on the White House talk that Zelensky and them had recently. It was a matter of him wanting to get benefits for the American people who are spending a lot of money there, right?
The American people are spending a lot of money to defend Ukraine, and it's not unreasonable for them to want something back. So I understand why they're looking for a mineral deal, because minerals are valuable. Ukraine has them, and it's a way they could pay the U.S. back for some of the defense they've been getting. That's fair. The problem here that we are avoiding getting to is the way that Zelensky was treated by Trump and Vance. They both just teamed up on him and just tore into him and wouldn't even let him get a word out. And the guy, his English is not even his first language. It's more difficult for him to understand and reply to them.
Yeah, he definitely didn't understand some of the context that was being said when they said that cards thing.
Yeah, and JD Vance, have you ever said thank you? I mean, he's on so many different videos and saying thank you, literally things like thank you to every American family. Like, so JD Vance can go jump in a river. He's just trying to get some attention on himself, I think.
Yeah, I kind of agree and I kind of disagree, because like at the end of the day, when you're getting charity from the Americans, you probably need to kiss their ass a little bit because they're giving you all a little bit. But like, I mean, I'm saying if you're immediately going and asking for this deal or whatever, you probably need to do it right to their faces. I'm sorry, but you're asking for billions of dollars at a time from a country that doesn't really owe you anything. I mean, that's debatable, but I'm just saying you probably need to say it at that point. And it's kind of rude for Trump and Vance to jump on him in front of the cameras. I wouldn't do that. That's not classy.
They shouldn't jump on him like that anywhere.
Behind doors, I think you can have a fair argument.
You can have an argument, but you got to let the guy finish a damn sentence.
Yeah, well, the arrogant Americans often won't.
Yeah.
That's just how they are. But I mean...
But that makes you an asshole.
But they're fair. You can call them an asshole, but they're the ones paying the bill and having a proxy war with Russia, right?
Well, they don't have to.
They don't.
They chose to do that.
That's the point I'm making. So if Trump turns around and says we don't want to have this funding going towards you, then what do you do, right?
That wasn't what he was saying, though.
Who's that?
Trump. He wanted the minerals.
Yeah, because it makes sense.
He wanted the deal. It wasn't that he didn't want to do the funding. He wanted the deal.
Yeah, that's the point. At the end of the day, he wants the deal, and he wants, and it's for good reason. Then they have an economic tie to the Ukraine, right?
I mean, it would help Ukraine in that if the U.S. has a stake in their land,
so it sounds to me
defend it.
It sounds to me that this deal might go through at this point in time.
It probably will.
Yeah. The thing here is, was Zelensky trying to have an argument to say like, we don't need this deal, you just need to support us on some moral conscience?
I mean, I'm not going to say he wasn't saying that, but that is not the impression I got. But it was really hard to figure out what he was trying to say.
Yeah.
He wasn't able to get any of it out with those two clowns just berating him.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think the way this conversation happened, probably not the best, right? We don't need to see the details. Like I think the transparency attempt was good. But at the end of the day, we don't know what Joe Biden says to people. We only hear about it from third-party people who are in the room that report on it.
I'm sure he's just as big a jerk as every other politician.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Well, maybe the transparency on that front, like we had in this scenario, is not the greatest. Maybe we just need to have each party go to the table, have their arguments behind closed doors, and then come out with their opinions on it. Because I think it's healthier at the end of the day to say, like, I talked to the Canadian Prime Minister about tariffs, blah, 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 and this is what I think. And then they can come out and say, well, we disagree, and this is our official view. And then people can look at that and say, we don't need to see the dirt that they scrapped up in the fight. We just need to hear the outcome of that. People like to watch a fight. Yeah, and we were somewhat entertained by this one, I guess.
No, it was just too one-sided.
Well, you don't like to see these fights then.
No.
When they're one-sided.
It needs to be a better fight.
It's hard to say though when you have like people like you're saying that don't speak the native language and have differing opinions. You're gonna get that, and you're on their home turf, right? What did you expect?
I expected Vance to shut the heck up and get out of the way.
No, you expected wrong from those guys. I think you overestimated those Americans.
Well, I mean, Trump can talk his own. He can talk his own crap. He's good at it.
Yeah.
So Zelensky and Trump could have talked it out, whatever. But like you said, they could have just figured out all the details of their deal and whatever, and then come out and told us what was happening. We didn't really need to see so much of what we saw there. I agree with you on that point. Well, the way it was executed, I think, was terrible. But as you can see, Zelensky knows he needs that deal because right away after that he was going, yeah, we can repair, the relationship. I thank you to the Americans. He said everything he needs to say.
Yeah.
To basically say, yeah, we're gonna keep this communication going. So that deal's gonna get done. And then probably that'll be better for Ukraine. But
yeah,
just the way Trump just lines himself up with Putin is a little concerning. And
what do you mean?
He did have to, like, Zelensky had to sit there and listen to Trump talk about how hard done by Putin has been over some sanctions while Zelensky's country has been blown up, right? Like, it's a bit much. None of us would want to sit there in that situation, but that's life. That's the world we live in.
I mean, yeah, but that's part of being a state leader. If you guys are going to go over there and start killing each other, you're going to have to listen to both sides, right? Despite what you like about it,
Yeah.
right? If you want to compromise with the people killing you and you're killing them, you're going to have to listen to whatever the heck propaganda you got from the Russians and whatever propaganda you get from the Ukrainians, right?
So you don't think that Trump is like lining himself up a little bit with Putin?
I don't know. From the way I see it is, I think that he mostly wants people to stop fighting and killing each other. Like it just seems like nobody is bringing any discussion towards peace besides this American president. Like, when's the last time we heard about peace talks between Russia and Ukraine?
I mean, there's usually some article about it a couple times a week, but it's never anything serious.
Yeah, exactly. The only serious talks we have is with this American leader. So they have to hash it out, figure it out.
They do, but he could be a little bit more
neutral
in it. Like,
yeah.
we know the U.S. is getting something out of this, right? They're putting a lot in. They're getting something out.
Well,
that's fine.
Yeah.
That's how the world works. But, they should at least appear to be not really supporting one side more than the other if they're going to be neutral about it.
Right.
But I think you'll find that a lot of the expectation is that they should automatically be like pro-Ukraine and against Russia. And I can understand why. And I don't totally disagree
like the
with
Americans
that,
should be pro-Ukraine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, if they wanted to be more neutral about it, I would be fine with that too. I just don't think that appearing to be more friendly with Russia.
Every criticism that goes on this discussion about the Ukraine and Russian war is always like, if you agree with one point on either side, you're pro that side. There's no nuance to this discussion, it seems. That's my observation. Like, if you were to say, like, yeah, Russian people are dying and that sucks, it's like, you support Russia because you don't like Russians dying. It's like, no, I just said I don't like those people dying. I don't say that I like Putin, right? But that's how I see it. Like, if you just say, like, that sucks on the Russian side, they're like, you're a pro Putin guy.
I mean, I wouldn't agree. I wouldn't say you're a Putin guy because you don't think.
No,
Russia
you might
should
not
die.
say that, but I'm just saying, like, that's how I observe this discussion in the public sphere right now.
Well,
it's one way or the other, and there's no in between.
That's right. As we've mentioned before, people kind of gravitate towards a lot of extremes and just they can't find any middle ground on things.
I mean, yeah, that's. I guess it has to work its way out in the discussion, because you're right in the sense that you discuss about Russia's claims in front of the Ukrainian prime minister or president. It might not be a good thing necessarily, but we don't know exactly what's happening on the Russian side because they didn't air that conversation with that guy.
No.
So we don't know what he's talking about on that front. So it's an unfair comparison in the public eye.
Well, anyways, they should have just done the deal and told us the deal was done.
That's the truth.
They didn't need to have that big display.
Yeah, it was ugly. I didn't like it. When I watched it, it was just a bunch of drama again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. At least it would have been better to just even watch that Love is Blind.
Nope. That's never a good option.
You don't think that would have been more entertaining?
Nope.
The viewing numbers would disagree.
They would. I am wrong in this.
Yeah, that's a popular drama.
Netflix will tell you.
Yeah.
Makes all the money. So I think the message that we are delivering this week is tariffs are taxes, and you should go watch Love is Blind.
No, don't do that. Unless you want to. I don't really care.
All right.
Anything from Michael Dad?
We appreciate you guys watching these videos, and we just ask you to like and subscribe. And we thank you guys again for watching.
Bye-bye.
Have a good week.
Bye.